Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And as always, I'd like to give a shout out to some people that sent me some tips this week. That would be Dr. Christopher Gay, Chris Fallon, and Barrett Peterson. Guys, thank you very much for sending these tips. If I did not include your name, please let me know. I'm happy to do it next week. And as always, I really appreciate the tips. They really do help me out. And with that, let's dive right in. We're going to be first talking about the Boy Scouts of America. Now, obviously, most people, especially if you're in America, know that the Boy Scouts sell popcorn, to basically raise funds for things like camping trips and all of that. Their reciprocal group, the Girl Scouts, they sell cookies. They got the good ones, especially when I was a Boy Scout as a kid and all of that. But to facilitate these sales, the Boy Scouts use a third-party fundraising organization called Trails End. You know where we're going with this. Trails End just notified the Boy Scouts of America and their local councils of a quote-unquote data incident that a web developer noticed. Now, certain information like children's full names, date of birth, email addresses, phone number, parent names, favorite product affiliation, their council district and unit, was visible through a search. It is unknown at this time how many Boy Scouts were affected, but we can assume probably all of them, if not a ton. Moving on, we're going to New Zealand, and we're talking about the New Zealand Transport Agency. They just admitted that due to a technology misconfiguration, they left basically highly secured data open. Now, I quote, "The transport agency can confirm the Google API was incorrectly left open as a part of the Traffic Watcher pre-production setup." This is according to the NZTA in a statement. I, again, do not know the extent of this one as well, but I'll keep you informed if I do. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Verizon. That is a major mobile carrier in the United States, probably the largest. They just had a subdomain that appeared to be used by company employees to access internal point of sales tools to view customer information, apparently got exposed. Now, analysis led to a discovery of a URL pointing to basically PDF formatted contracts for Verizon Wireless customers. And apparently, with a little bit of work, you could get in and see pretty much 2 million of these contracts that had full name, address, phone number, model, and serial number of the acquired device and the customer's signature. So that's all kinds of awesome. Heads up, Verizon customers. Moving on, we're heading to the state of Oklahoma. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is probing a cyber theft of $4.2 million from the Oklahoma Law Enforcement Retirement System. This is obviously a pension fund for police, highway, state troopers, state agents, park rangers, and other kinds of officers. They've recovered some of the money, but they're in the process of trying to figure this out. I have no doubt that Oklahoma is insured for that, but heads up if you are in the state law enforcement in the state of Oklahoma. Moving on, we're going to be talking about FEMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're notifying 2.5 million survivors of natural disasters that their personal information was shared with a third party, apparently unintended. FEMA officials say the data was shared with a contractor that supports its Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program. Anybody who has applied for temporary housing assistance between 2008 and 2018, an entire decade, may have been impacted. Now, this shared data includes banking information for about 1.8 million of the 2.5 cases. FEMA says it has removed all of the overshared information from its contractor system. There's no evidence that this data was released or ever hacked or accessed by an unauthorized party. That's what they always say. We don't necessarily know, but this contractor did get it, and FEMA is providing 18 months of free credit monitoring to anybody affected. So if you've applied for FEMA sheltering between 2008 and 2018 due to natural disaster, you probably are due for free credit monitoring. Moving on, we're talking about a website called Dealer Leads. Now, this is interesting. They basically are in the car buying industry. So if you've ever been interested in a car, odds are if you've gone to a website to look at a car or anything like that, you might be entered in their database. And you know where I'm going with this. 198 million records from this car buyer's marketing database have been exposed online. That is 413 gigabytes of data. Now, this data includes loan and finance inquiries, vehicles that were for sale, log data with IP addresses of website visitors, and more. So as the fallout from that happens, I will let you know. Moving on, we're going to be talking about an app called Get. It was previously known as Qnect. This is coming out of Australia. Now, this app was built for universities, societies, and clubs to facilitate payments for events and other kinds of merchandise. The app operates in 4 different countries with about 159,000 active student users and 453 clubs using this. Obviously, they got hit. About 50,000 Aussie students were affected as well. I do not know the nation, the other states, or the other countries that were affected by this. But if you're using an app called Get, formerly Qnect, heads up to you, your data's probably been exposed. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the Community Psychiatric Clinic in Seattle, Washington in the U.S. They fell victim to basically 3 email security breaches affecting 15,537 patients. This was reported on August 15th, and right now we don't have much more in this breach disclosure, which obviously is a HIPAA violation, so we'll see if we can find more on that. Moving on, we're going to be talking about a company called Haldex. Apparently this is a Swedish company that makes automotive parts, I believe, for trucks. They filed a police report due to suspected corporate espionage and data breaches. Now, Haldex is saying that they discovered that a former employee copied large amounts of digital information, mainly of the financial nature, from the company's servers. Now, according to Haldex, there's also evidence that this information was passed on to at least one senior employee in the financial industry. This was earlier this summer that Haldex discovered this person, and this person no longer works there, and they had entered the company's servers illegally after their termination and downloaded a large amount of files with information that includes literally corporate secrets and primarily, and primary financial information. So if you work for Haldex, heads up to you. And we've actually seen cases of this where a disgruntled employee will go back in and start accessing things like they shouldn't. That's obviously a very serious issue. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Ed Couch ELSA School District. I believe I pronounced that right. This is out of the state of Texas in the USA. They are basically addressing this an issue where they sold computers at an auction apparently on April 6th, but they didn't really wipe them, and the information that was left on some of these computers that individuals bought from this auction included names, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, etc., etc. So if you have anything to do, student, teacher, or faculty, with Ed Couch ELSA School District, your information might have been sold at auction accidentally when they didn't wipe and overwrite those computers before putting them on the block. So heads up to you. Moving on, we're talking about Metro Mobility. This is in the Twin Cities. That's St. Paul and Minneapolis in Minnesota. For those of you who don't know what the Twin Cities are, this is a transit service for people with disabilities. They may have exposed information on up to 15,000 individuals who use their transportation services. Now, hackers may have accessed rider names, pickup and drop-off addresses, times of rides, and special instructions for Metro Mobility drivers. Social security number and personal financial data was not compromised, according to the notice that was sent to the 15,000. So if you use Metro Mobility, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Lyons Companies. This is one of Delaware's leading insurance brokers. That's the state of Delaware. They suffered a data breach incident that compromised sensitive information for their customers, and email accounts were illegally accessed between February 4th of 2019 and March 12th when they discovered this breach. Names, driver's license information, contact information, birth dates, bank account information, and various other financial information was exposed. Moving on, let's talk about the Robstown Police Department out of Texas, the state of Texas. A data breach resulted in the loss of Robstown Police Department evidence and reports in pending investigations from 2018 to 2019. And I quote, "The data was characterized as evidence, photos, videos, etc., and reports relating to pending investigations. The information we received was that the breach was a result of the RPD's servers being hacked and or compromised by a virus sometime in the last couple of weeks." So apparently you can mess with Texas, providing it's ransomware. So heads up to you. I'm really curious to know if we'll ever find out if that's an actual criminal that was smart enough to be able to break in and delete their own evidence, or if it's just simply one of those targeted ransomware effects, and they did not compartmentalize their evidence computers that effectively. Moving on, Let's talk about Pearson. That I'm giving you an update on that. If you recall, about a month or two ago, this was a major school district publisher for school districts in the United States, and just a zillion different school districts got hit by virtue of this with exposures. And this week, Colorado Springs School District 11, Salamanca School District in New York, and Bethlehem Central School District, also in New York, declared breaches as a result of Pearson. I'll keep you up to date on that as those things go along. And finally, let's talk about a recent report and some research that came out from Kaspersky. Kaspersky is saying that roughly 36% of small businesses have been victims of data breaches so far in 2019. Now, I think that's actually pretty telling because a lot of small businesses don't take proper precautions. When I'm on stage talking to corporate leaders, and if I've got small business in the room, that's oftentimes what I'm talking about, is that they're typically not spending and investing in cyber defense strategies in the way of a large corporation. And unfortunately, a lot of small businesses cater to larger businesses. They're not just consumer based. And what ends up happening is they advertise that, oh, well, we deal with large corporation X or large corporation Y, and they become a target for supply chain hacking and other things. It's much easier to slip through those defenses with phishing or ransomware or just a straight up data breach because, quite frankly, they just don't invest in the same kind of defensive technology. So I think that's a major issue. And if you're a small business out there, as by no means is any kind of sales pitch, but you guys really need to step up your game, because like it or not, you think, well, we don't have the millions of dollars to be ransomed like a massive corporation, but you're getting hit, and it's affecting your bottom line a lot more than a line item few $1 million on a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So heads up to you. You guys are major targets. And those are your breaches of the week. Were you affected? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.